2 months, far too long. Super excited to be back for the first time since September for Fierce Fighting Championship 34. Live from a new venue, the Masonic Temple in Salt Lake City. Blake O'Reilly and Zach Partridge for this Fight Week preview. And Zach, I know we're going to be talking a lot about this venue, but I think everyone is looking forward to what is this new place going to look like as a new landing zone for Fierce?
Um, it accomplishes a few things, and one thing that I think is going to be the biggest enhancement for the fighter and fan experience is just the energy and the vibe in the room. With it being a smaller yet a theater type field, that goes up. There's going to be a thousand people strong in there, and it's going to feel like about all thousand of them are right on top of that cage. And the energy in that room and around that cage is just going to be, it's just going to be awesome. It's something that, we love the Maverick Center. We look forward to going back there in the future as well. But it's so big. It is hard to fill. And at times, like even when we have good, strong crowds there with good energy, it's a big space. And I feel like the Masonic Temple is going to give us the big show feel with that intimate atmosphere that's going to just create something very unique and special for Utah MMA.
Man, I absolutely cannot wait for it for so many reasons. And I think by the time that this airs, it might be pretty close to selling out, if I'm not mistaken.
It should be, we're about a week out right now. The upper balcony sold out last night, I believe, or this morning. Just a few hundred tickets left. And considering that most of our ticket sales, double to triple on fight week, I think it's going to be sold out, before weigh-ins, and there's not going to be a seat in there. And I've let everybody know, don't wait. I just had somebody at the gym this morning say, "Hey, how much are the upper balcony seats?" And it doesn't matter. They're gone. So don't wait. It's gonna sell out.
So the lower bowl still has tickets available. And if you can't do that, then you can go ahead and watch the pay-per-view as well, which is also available at fiercefightingchampionship.com. All right, Zach, enough chit-chat. We got to get into these fights. 13 bouts, and they are absolutely incredible. We're going to kick things off with Lita Holtz and Katie Phillips. Phillips making her debut. Holtz already has a couple of fights under her belt.
Yeah, I think this one will be a lot of fun. Lisa's coming down from Washington. It's fun. She hasn't been to a show like ours before. A lot of hers has been, I think, like Indian reservation type shows and things like that. And so she's really excited. And Katie Phillips, I got to meet her at FightCon and get to know her a little bit. And I think they're really excited to kick off the card. Girls always bring it. We always love all the fights, but the girls are scrappy. Women's MMA is growing and evolving, and I think this will be a really fun fight to kick off the card.
Katie Phillips, again, out of Agima, the first of 6 to debut, as for Lisa Holtz, her 4th fight in 2024. So that'll be a good one. All right, well, it seems like almost every single show we got to do at least one of these where we jump back in a couple of days after previously recording it. Marco Ramirez, 6 days notice, signs on the dotted line to face off against Austin Dew. Unfortunately, Alex Arnold suffering an injury just a couple of days ago. And so with that, a new opponent for Austin Dew out of Sierra MMA.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, right? When you get into the psychology of the fighter, it's a new opponent for both guys, right? One's just been in camp preparing for another guy, but a lot of people are visual preparers. They like to see what their opponent looks like. And, Austin's been doing his entire camp with a vision of, fighting Alex Arnold in his head. And due to an injury, unfortunately, we wish Alexander Arnold a speedy recovery, but he had to pull out on Saturday, just 6 days before the fight. And Marco did not hesitate to raise his hand. Marco is already under contract to fight December 13th at 155, and he said, "Hey, I can do 170 this. Can I do both?" And I love that. I wanted to give him that opportunity if that's what he wants to do. I think that that's really cool. Go up a weight class. I love fighters that are down to fight. So Marco Ramirez is out of Champs Gym, which is a new gym. Previously, he's trained at UCTC and TDF up in Logan. The kid grew up, he's been boxing on and off with a little bit of high school wrestling in his background. And then after a couple injuries, has been training for about a year at UCTC and now Champs Gym in Salt Lake. He'll be the first guy to walk from Champs Gym at Fierce. It'll be kind of cool.
Hunter Birdsley making his debut versus Gerardo Villasenor, also another debuter in this one. Gerardo, I believe, actually does a lot of training at One Hit, primarily with Teak Vigil, but also gets a lot of reps in over there.
Yeah, Jerry's been up there with our Army heavyweight champ Mark Gonzalez and Mason Moyes. They've kind of all been in camp together, and as Mark gets ready to start his camp, been there. Jerry's man, he's a tough kid. Got some rolls in, got some grappling in with him. Watched him spar a whole bunch, and good boxing based background. Very strong kid. Bouncer at a bar, so he is not. This is not new, throwing punches or getting punched. And he loves it. I mean, you watch the way he even spars with the other heavyweights. It's like I great chin, and then Hunter Birdsley, for people who don't know, his older brother, Bird Dog, who was around the Utah MMA scene for a long time and is a well-respected name. And I am very excited for this fight for a myriad of reasons. But Hunter Birdsley, I think, is coming to put on a show, and he has some, he has some shoes to fill with his brother's reputation is just being an absolute stud. So I think we have two studs making their debuts that I really can't wait to see what happens.
Noah Hamilton, Julian Gomez. Both of these guys we have seen in the cage before. Noah Hamilton, another name out of the pit SLCS. For Julian Gomez, his third walk in 7 months.
Yeah, Julian's staying really active. Noah was supposed to fight at one point, I believe in June.
I think that sounds right.
Maybe September. Maybe no, it was September. Julian was supposed, I think, one of those two. But him and his wife welcomed a beautiful baby into the world. So congratulations to them. And we're really excited to see Noah. Noah used to train at One Hit a little bit before he moved to Salt Lake and switched gyms. He was always just a really tough, hard worker in the room. Him and Julian, I think, very similar standards, just tough, hard nosed, and durable. And I think there's a lot of fights on this card that I could see just turning into absolute wars.
Talking about Noah Hamilton coming fresh off of that 52-second KO in June. So it was probably a later on card that maybe he was.
No, September. So it would have been September. Yep.
So this next one might be my big sleeper fight on the card. Daniel Lavulo, the brother of Nick Lavulo, who we saw get a big win just a couple of months ago, facing off against Chris Falau, who's back after over a year away and coming off of that 9-second knockout. We've had 3 guys in the last 2 years have a 9-second knockout. That is all 3 of them tied for the second fastest knockout in Fierce Fighting Championship history. And they all always ask, is that the fastest ever? No, it's the second fastest, and you're tied with 3 other people.
Got to get to 8. Got to get to 8. Somebody's got to get to 8.
Got to break that barrier, but nonetheless, very excited for this one.
Yeah, I think this one's a banger. Chris kind of went away for a couple things. I think he kind of took a break from training, but at the same time, it was really hard to find somebody to find him that wanted to fight him. Not a lot of heavyweights, but we're really excited to see Chris back in the Fierce cage and hope we can get active again. And I think he put himself right into that title picture with a win on Friday night. Standing aside to him, Daniel, who, just because your sibling has success doesn't mean it translates. But my goodness, they've been training together for a long time. And if he can replicate even a part of what his brother Nick did, I mean, don't blink, because Chris, they have dynamite in their hands, and Daniel is a big man. You shake his hand, it's like it was like shaking like a meat club, like it was huge. So I couldn't get my hand around it. So I'm very excited to watch these heavyweights get to work on Friday night.
Tayson Royer, Nate Ayers, a couple of featherweights who are coming off of pretty successful bouts. Tayson Royer, the 52nd knockout just in September, and then Nate Ayers, that dominant win back in July.
Really good test for both of them. We're going to find out how good both of them really are, right? Nate kind of made quick work of his last fight back in July. Tayson, same thing, Tayson fighting a more independent guy that was a short notice replacement for Noah. That's right. Is Ben Evans replaced Noah because of that. That's what happened. And then Nate, another short notice replacement, I believe, was Michael Izalde on that card, stepping in to fight Nate Ayers. Michael Izalde, who will be fighting the next week in Idaho Falls. So super excited to see both of them maybe tested against little higher level competition, I think it's fair to say, and somebody that's a little bit more more ready for him. I Nate has just in his couple of walks for Fierce and kickboxing and kickboxing and MMA, he's just shown a level of physicality that his opponents haven't been able to deal with. But I think Tayson's really down, and obviously he looks from what it did, Ben Evans said, hits really, really hard. That's going to be interesting to see if that deters Nate, if there's a more patient filling out process or what that looks like. Very excited for these featherweights.
All right, we move up to middleweight. Treston Whitkey, we'll make sure to get the name pronunciation on that right, versus Walker Pelto. Whitkey coming off of that guillotine finish in August. As for Walker Pelto, his third fight since June of this year, he has been on a roll, Zach.
Walker wants to fight, and so does Tristan. And Tristan, he was down to fight Walker on short notice for the Bear Lake card. He was in. He just couldn't make 185, so it was going to have to be a catch weight at a higher weight. And in comes Micah Murdoch, who was on track that he could turn around and kind of do one of the coolest things we've ever seen since we've been a part of Fierce and fight back-to-back weekends. But Tristan was down to fight Walker, and he jumped at the opportunity again. When you have a stud like Walker and you have a guy sitting there raising their hands and, hey, I want to fight him. Like we wanted to give him that opportunity, and it worked out. So I love fighters like Tristan that they want to fight. I know he's a big, strong, physical kid, super durable. Talked to people who trained with him. They said he's super tough and durable. It's one where I know there's a lot of momentum behind Walker right now, and for good reason. But if Walker thinks he's going to come in and just get a guy to, lay down, he could be in for another 3-round dogfight, just like he was with Micah. But Walker is doing something that's really important, especially with young fighters. If you're healthy, you need to be fighting as much as you can. Picking and choosing right opponents, waiting this, that. Walker's never hesitated to say yes to anybody that we've offered him. So I think Walker's doing the right thing, staying active, staying healthy. And, don't be surprised that if he is healthy after this fight, if we do see him one more time in the Fierce cage before the end of the year on that December 13th card, he's already expressed an interest that if he's healthy, he wants to stay active and get 4 fights in. And what is that? 4 fights in like 6-7 months?
6 months.
I mean, that would be wild. So, love fighters that want to fight, love kids like Walker. And he's so great to be around. I'm very excited for this matchup. Very interested to see what a bigger, more physical, durable guy and how Walker deals with the physicality of Tristan.
We don't always do this, but this is a definite number one contender fight between Michael Eastwood and Dietrich Jessup. Both fighters coming off of title losses, and we'll have to see which one comes out on top. Dietrich Jessup back at Fierce. Michael Eastwood first time since February of this year.
Well, I mean, you look at it and it's like, who are you losing to? They're both losing to guys that they lost in title fights, and to guys that are pros now, right? Chris Anderson making his walk, who beat Dietrich in their last fight, making his pro debut later on in the night, and then Michael Eastwood back in November or February, his last fight was against Nasir Davis, who's making the walk for his pro debut in Idaho Falls next weekend. So very even fight, and it is a fight that is just the winner kind of has to fight for a title next. Not saying that that 125 title is going to be competed for already, spoken for in January. Lance is coming back to defend that title, but they're definitely going to be putting themselves in line to the winner of Lance and his next opponent. That they'll be next.
So just to confirm, Lance already has a planned out bout for January.
Yes.
And the winner of that will fight the winner of this fight. So it won't be an immediate number one contender. It'll be a saved spot for the winner of that fight.
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure. All right. Let's go ahead and move over to this main card, because what a lineup of fights we have, and we'll kick it off with the amateur lightweight title on the line. I love that we're kicking off the main card with maybe the most talked about bout of the entire night. Talon Carvalho, Logan Taylor, 4-1 versus 4-0. Both of these guys have borderline looked invincible in there. And I think this is the best fight that we can make in the amateur ranks right now, Zach.
I think they're the best 2 lightweights in Utah. I think that amateur lightweights in Utah, I think that their stylistic difference is really fun. People talk about Talon on the feet and Logan on the ground and his grappling. But one thing that I see that I think excites me the most is how hungry both of these young fighters are, and that they're developing to becoming more well-rounded fighters. Logan has shown a lot of improvement fight to fight in his striking area. He showed it a lot on his front street fight up in Boise against Amir Talik. Um, Showed a lot of really good things against a long rangey striker like Amir that I think his name was Amir, right? Um,
I
but
believe
uh
so in Idaho. Yeah.
he showed an ability to handle that well. Well, Talon is a long striker as well, but he hits a lot harder than Amir, and he is a special athlete. And but Talon, I know that he's been working really hard on his wrestling takedown defense and his grappling as well. And I told you this just a couple of weeks ago. I think this is such a crazy good fight that it would not surprise me that if the other one of the that it would not surprise me if we saw a Logan Taylor with the TKO or something, or Talon Carvalho with the submission. They've both just been working so hard, and they've been on this collision course, and we've just seen it kind of coming as they've kind of rose together around the same time. And now it's time for them to meet and stake claim to who the number one 155er in the state is, in my opinion. Um, I think it's a fight that if they both fought a bunch of times, it could go back and forth. I just think it's a really even matchup. Their strengths um, complement each other stylistically. Just I cannot say enough about both of them, and it's one of those fights where it's like I like both of them so much, and I'm a fan of both of them so much. It's like, man, I don't, I hate to see either of them lose, but it's competition, and they're both two great young fighters and athletes with bright futures ahead of them. This fight won't define either of their careers, but it will definitely, I it will definitely be a great fight. I guarantee that.
I think one of the coolest things also about this matchup is both of these guys have kind of grown up in front of our eyes. Talon Carvalho, his debut was May of 2023. Logan Taylor, his debut was September of 2023. And so it's just been about a year and a half to a year of these two guys just continuing to fight, continuing to get their walks in, and they have really just turned into some spectacular fighters. Cannot wait for that one to kick off the main
Spectacular
card.
fighters and both like incredible young men. Like I really enjoy conversations with both of them. I really enjoy being around both of them. Like they're like it's like the new age of MMA that's coming, this next generation of Utah MMA that's coming, and they're both like phenomenal young men too to like probably, you're looking at going to be kind of the faces of Utah MMA and part of that establishment, or established recognition. Um, I think they're both really special. I can't wait for this one.
All right, we move over to flyweight for the first professional bout of the evening. Donovan Wegner versus Chris Anderson. Wegner moving down to 125 pounds. He's coming out of California. As for Chris Anderson, he's won 4 in a row and seems dialed in to his professional approach.
Yeah, this one's going to be really interesting. I think, Wegner's pro experience versus, Chris been pretty active. It's been over. It's just, I think that it's a lot like Wegner wants to keep it kind of on the feet, banging a little bit, show off his striking where, Chris is good striking, but once he gets his wrestling going, he's a lot to deal with, and it's going to be interesting to see how his style translates to the pro games. But we'll know I know he'll be ready. I've seen him go 15 minutes before in amateur title fights, so we'll see how his gas tank holds up doing the 3 5-minute rounds and against somebody that's been in there and done it a handful of times at the pro ranks. I think it's a very interesting, very competitive fight.
All right, Anthony Castro, Nino Henao. 64% of these guys' total combined fights, if you include the amateur and professional career, 64% have ended in a knockout. Both of these guys, finishers in their own right. Cannot wait for Castro, who's one of Idaho's finest, and Nino Henao, kind of a little bit of his back against the wall after that uncharacteristic loss in August.
I personally I think Nino, I think Orlando Sanders is very good. And I heard from multiple people that was the best he's ever looked. And, to look that good against somebody like Nino is, shouldn't be taken lightly. But at the same time, Nino hadn't been in there for a while. I love him wanting to get right back on the horse, and we wanted to have him out on. And man, Anthony Castro isn't necessarily somebody that a lot of people are raising their hands to fight. Nino's always been that guy that he's just down to fight and he wants challenges, and he's come out on top on a lot of those. And I love that Nino wanted this fight. Anthony Castro is a he. He was a bit of a he's been a bit of a monster up in Idaho. Very good boxing, very good wrestling. Um, Watched him, have studied him a little bit, and I think that this is just a fight too, where it's just where Anthony has these like physical gifts that you could see he's very powerful, very explosive, a very good fighter. Nino's been around for a long time and he's been in the room with a lot of really good high level guys. And if somebody is going to be able to bring this Anthony Castro freight train, back to earth a little bit, I think it is somebody like Nino. But again, Anthony Castro riding a ton of confidence like he should be, never lost in MMA. I don't even think he's really ever lost a round, to be honest. He's from the fights that I've seen that went to a decision or that went into the later rounds. He's like you said, they're both finishers. They both throw things with bad intentions, but I expect to see a much better version of Nino. I know he holds a higher standard to himself, and I think he's one of the most talented, not talked about pro fighters in Utah. And Anthony Castro, you're going to get introduced to a pretty special fighter in his own right. And I can't wait. I think this fight could absolutely steal the show.
After 2 months away, we needed a banger of a card, and
Yeah.
this one absolutely delivers. All right. Christian Edwards out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, facing opposite Jerome Hatch, obviously the mainstay of Utah. He has 41 more fights than Christian Edwards. Edwards, his first fight outside of the Bellator promotion in his career. Very interested to see how the New Mexico fighter faces off.
Well, it's interesting, right? Christian Edwards is, he started out 5-0 at Bellator, and then dropped his last three and is on a 3-fight skid. And confidence is everything in MMA, right? I mean, we've talked about you can go. MMA is a different sport where you can go very hard, very very far, very quickly by just having confidence in your belief and working hard. If you do those two things, you can go further in MMA than you can any other pro sport. I mean, I'm sure Blake is a very good basketball player yourself. Like if you had confidence in yourself and worked really hard, there's that ceiling is still there for to try and get to the NBA, right? In MMA, you can get to big organizations with just doing those two things. And Christian Edwards is in those big organizations doing those things, but he's a very, very skilled striker. I'm not trying to say that he just got there by those two things, but I'm saying he's a very, very skilled striker, but confidence is everything. He's on a 3-fight skid. Jerome currently on a 6-fight skid. Whether you believe he won or lost a couple of those split decisions back at UVU or at bare knuckle boxing, whatever, end of the day, he didn't get his hand raised, both on skids, both come from a high expectation level of winning. And I think this fight is so interesting because, Christian has all these skills and he's a good striker and he has all these abilities, but we got to see if Christian believes himself. We always know Jerome believes himself. I think that's like one of his gifts, right? Is he knows he has the ultimate equalizer in his left or his right hand that can put just about anybody down. I'm very interested to see, and in my opinion, I think the more confident fighter will win this fight.
This main event is another fun one. Cole Schaefer, John Poppy. John Poppy was supposed to main event alongside Mike Jones for the middleweight title a couple months ago. Unfortunately, fell to an injury, and so he's back now, recouped and recovered. As for Cole Schaefer, back-to-back main event slates. First time since Steven Seiler that someone has done that in the Fierce Fighting Championship promotion.
Well, it was so interesting that this fight, this card was pretty much already built. I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, Cole Schaefer hits me up. And by the way, right after September, he said, yeah, probably first of next year. I think I'm done for the year. All right, cool. He's got a lot of momentum behind him. And then I get a random text message and he's like, is the November card full? And I was like, are you asking for you? Like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I got a spot for you. And he's like, well, who do you think I could fight? And I was like, man, I don't know. And then John Poppy, weirdly enough, messages me like within a couple of hours.
Oh, wow.
Hey, do you guys have anything before the end of the year? my foot's good to go. He broke his foot right against Mike Jones for the August 3rd part. My foot's good to go. You guys have anything around November? Well, two very good wrestlers, stylistically. Yeah, I think we can make a fight happen. And I mean, Cole riding his second 3-fight win streak of his pro career. John Poppy was supposed to come fight for the title. Things happen. He's going to come fight Cole Schaefer, and maybe if he gets his hand raised, November 8th, then we could look at rescheduling him and Mike Jones for the title for the beginning of next year. Or, Cole Schaefer gets that first 4-fight winning streak. Things get really interesting. One of Cole's main training partners this camp has been Mike Jones, our current 185 champ. I don't think they have any interest in fighting each other, but it's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out because Cole's last performance, I think, was the best performance of his entire career. The way he mixed in his striking and his wrestling was beautiful. The things that he showed and his ability to get back to his wrestling. And, I heard it. Me and Cole talked about it personally. I heard it. I know other people talked about it. People were saying Cole's chin was gone. He got hit pretty hard by Chris Chu, got rocked, and did the right things, recovered, and showed that he could take a punch and get in there. But it is no secret, John Poppy's not really there to get into a slugfest. He's there to wrestle. And against Cole Schaefer, Iowa State collegiate wrestler, I think we're going to have a very, very interesting, fun chess match. Maybe the wrestling cancels out and we do get a brawl on the feet. Who knows? But I think it's a main event that I'm so excited for.
55-day turnaround for Cole Schaefer. 55-day turnaround for us as well. Cannot wait for it. Masonic
Nice
Temple,
break.
Friday night in Salt Lake City. Doors open at 6. Show starts at 7. Is that correct?
Correct. And then if you haven't yet, get your tickets for the after party. Should be a lot of fun. Sponsored by our good friends at Glow Pop. I think just right there in the basement, right underneath the auditorium. Go in the front steps, enjoy a great night of fights. The atmosphere is going to be awesome. I really look forward to showing Utah MMA what a treat that this venue is going to be for us, as we're already scheduled to be there in December, January, and February as well.
Really quickly, I do want to also mention, Zach, thank you so much for that. Parking. I know it's a little bit limited given that it's downtown Salt Lake City. So any words of advice for the people that are going to be coming, because there is going to be, potentially 1,000 people there.
Yeah. Parking, Uber, finding parking on the street. I mean, it's downtown Salt Lake, right? It's just kind of that vibe. Carpooling is going to be helpful. There's very limited parking like around the building. Just typical downtown, City Creek's not too far away. Things like that are only a mile or two away. So, there'll be options.
Friday night. Can't get here soon enough. Zach Partridge, thank you so much.